Welcome to the Transformative Pathways Podcast with your host, Jason Doby. Join Jason as he explores the many ways to unlock personal growth, mindfulness, and spiritual transformation. So now, please welcome the host of Transformative Pathways, Jason Doby.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm your host, Jason Doby, founder of Transformative Pathways Life Coaching. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our topic for today's episode is spiritual awakenings with our first ever guest on the podcast, Mr. Anthony Campos. Anthony is joining us today from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Anthony describes himself as a humble spiritual being who has wholeheartedly dedicated his life to helping humanity. Anthony is someone who fully embraces the role the universe has given him, serving as a spiritual guide, supporting others on their journey in whatever ways he can. Anthony, welcome to the podcast, my friend. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you. First off, I appreciate the opportunity to be your first guest. It's a gift. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to see you personally from the moments we connected through social media, which, more and more people are going to start to see it as an energy exchange. More people are going to see that they themselves are algorithm, and the algorithm leads you into the path of many. And lo and behold, here you are face to face with somebody that you connected to, and you're watching them manifest something that they've dreamt about doing, and using their voice to help people understand what's going on in this crazy world we live in, because there's going to be millions of people who awaken, and they're going to wake up and they're not going to know what's going on. They're going to wake up from that slumber of feeling like they've been lied to, like this simulated reality seems to not make sense, and they're looking for answers. And it's going to be people like yourself who lead them into, a path to help them make sense and get the clarity that they need to embark on their ascension journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and it's crazy. When we first connected online, I don't even know when it was, maybe a year ago, I was reaching out to you for some advice and commenting on your posts and whatnot, but I never would have imagined that I'd be sitting here with you today. But it just goes to show that, anything is possible.
Exactly. And one way that spirit communicates through us is through the body chills, the feeling of just confirmation. That's, as you said, that's exactly what happened to me. So, you learn to listen to the subtle language of the universe, where you kind of tune out everything, and you're just listening to your senses. You're listening to your intuition. You're listening to the prickliness of your hair when you're talking to somebody who's on your vibration, on your frequency. And it just allows you to move in a way where you're not necessarily moving off your human instinctual survival way that we've grown so accustomed to living, but it's more like this adapt way of listening to these intricacies and these synchronicities of your higher self, the higher self that's connected and not separated, separated from God.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, and to talk about the body chills, that was something I wanted to bring up later too. That's something I wanted to ask you about, the body chills, because I get those body chills all the time, and I kind of take that as, at first I used to think that was like my spirit guides connecting with me, but now I just kind of take it as like, a confirmation that I'm kind of going in the right direction, and it happens to me all the time, and it happened just right then when you were talking.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're energetic beings. And when you connect to other people who are on your wavelength, they have a very, very profound way of connecting to you, not intentionally, just unintentionally, through the energy. And it happens where we are able to enter the crown chakra, which is, your crown chakra is what gives you the divine consciousness, and this unity consciousness of not feeling like you're just this mere mortal here to experience earth and you die and that's it. But your crown chakra allows you to know that we're eternal, we're immortal, we're trying to transcend, and we're trying to create this reality where we get to experience a higher consciousness and a reality that we create with the work that we're doing here in the three-dimensional realm. So with the body chills, it can be a multitude of things. It can be your kundalini energy, which is activating further. Depending on the sides, left side, right side. If you get chills on one side, it's connected to your divine feminine, which your left is your feminine energy, and then your right side's your masculine energy, you can use it as confirmation because you do control your reality. So you can use it to connect to your spirit guides. And this is like a practice that you have to have the mindfulness to begin to integrate into your own spiritual journey. You know, you can ask your guides, give me a sign, and make my left side get chills. And lo and behold, you get those answers, or you get questions like, give me 1111 if this is a path that I'm supposed to be going on. And they typically will answer, but eventually they want us to get to this place where we begin trusting ourselves. It's kind of like the universe, our angels, they put us on this bike and they have training wheels on it. Well, the whole goal of their existence is to get you to take those training wheels off and begin to venture on your own, where you know they're always watching over you, they're always here to guide you, but you begin to fully trust yourself. You begin to fully
Mhm.
trust your intuition.
That's where I feel like I'm at lately, and I've been thinking that I haven't been, getting those messages or those body chills lately, and I think that's what it is I'm starting to kind of trust myself, and then I tell myself, this is my journey and I'm here to kind of do it on my own. They kind of got me started, and now I gotta kind of take it from here. So that makes sense to me, totally, man. And
Yeah.
also on the topic of spiritual awakening, I wanted to start things off. If you could just tell us a little bit about your own personal story and your own spiritual awakening story. And I saw on your story, I think it was today, when you were talking about spiritual awakenings and how everyone experiences it kind of differently, and there is a wide range on that. So if you could talk a little bit about that too, that would be awesome, man.
Yeah, definitely. My spiritual awakening was 2021, just after the Lionsgate portal, which we have annually every 8th of July. And mine was traumatic because I had been in a very toxic relationship, narcissistic relationship, which the more I talk to people and the more that my platform has expanded, I've grown to believe that this is truly a rites of passage for empaths or hypersensitive people, people who grew up and they just knew they were different. They were the black sheep. They didn't fit in. They feel the exterior energy surrounding them, but they don't quite know how to transmute the energy. They don't understand the energy. They don't understand why they feel the pain of others, the hurt of the earth, the hurt of just general existence of where Mother Earth has been for so long. And it overwhelms us. So this is why I truly believe that there's interplanetary souls, which means that we don't originate on Earth. We originate from other constellations, Pleiades, Andromeda, Lyran, all these different constellations. And some people may say it's pseudoscience, it's this, it's that, but it's really about what speaks to your soul and what resonates with you. And I've grown very fond of the term starseed, of knowing that I originated from a different constellation and agreed to come to Earth to live my own soul mission to discover how to further connect to my truest self. And then as I connect to my truest self, then I can then aid humanity and begin to help others and assist them with their awakening. But um, my awakening was crazy. It was painful. It wasn't pleasant. It was very uncomfortable. Um, it really pushed my limits to the point where I didn't want to awaken. I was looking to the heavens and talking to God amongst myself and asking not to awaken, to just let me go back to this way of living that I was so accustomed to, because you lose everything. Right after I finally was able to free myself from the narcissistic relationship, I then lost my mom to heroin overdose. So I was dealing with all these emotions and all this trauma of losing my mom, losing a relationship that was just so toxic, and finally having the courage to free myself from that relationship. And at the same time, I'm dealing with the awakening and dealing with all these energies surrounding me. I began having some visions, dream state, astral projection. I experienced the Akashic records during this time as well. So it was just overwhelming, energetic outpour from the cosmos, not only from the cosmos, but my own trauma through the Kundalini awakening that I was experiencing, which I literally and physically was able to feel going up the base of my spine. And I didn't quite know how to interpret it because I didn't have a mentor. I've always been self taught. And I learned to really process and filter my own emotions through this process. I cried a lot, purged a lot. It was a detoxification. It was a purification of my soul. I became sanctified. I learned to understand that we gain an anointings when we go through a spiritual awakening. So it's almost like the universe begins to hold you on this, this pedestal and expects you to live vicariously through source, through God, and begin to be a prime example of how you're supposed to conduct yourself, how you're supposed to walk this path of integrity, not have this grandiose type of outlook on life, like, oh, I'm chosen, I'm this, I'm that. Everybody else is feeble-minded, and they're just these non-player computers walking around the matrix. So it really was brought upon myself to make sure that I let people know, like, hey, yeah, you may see me as chosen, I may see you as chosen, you may see yourself as one of the 144,000 here on this planet, but also you learn to believe and discover that we're all chosen. Just a matter of each individual awakening to that frequency and allowing their chakras to align to the point where they understand that it's connected to the mathematical sequence and the DNA strands of the 144,000 double helix. So I'm constantly reminding people, like, hey, we're all chosen. It's going to
Mhm.
take people multiple lifetimes so they can discover that they too are chosen. And when you discover you're chosen, it's you essentially choosing yourself, choosing to understand that God is within, the kingdom was within. And when you do this, it allows you to worship the God within, not outside or the exterior of what we see in the physical world.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, man. And yeah, I also wanted to talk to you about, your relationship with God. And, I agree too, like connecting to the God within. And, um, you know, you have a lot of followers on social media. So, some of the stuff you say might be um, taken differently from people who are religious and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering how you kind of navigate that, when dealing with people who are religious. And some people, when I tell people I'm spiritual, like some people kind of like look down on spirituality and think it's like this weird thing. So, how do you navigate that?
Well, one thing that happens when we begin to integrate the frequency of higher consciousness, or a 5D frequency, is we begin to not care. We begin to not really give a shit what people think. And you really have to step into this era of not caring. And it was an era, and pardon my language, but it was an era I called my fuck it era,
Mhm.
where I just stopped caring what people thought. That I understood that it was going to come with scrutiny. It was going to come with a lot of ridicule. I lost friends. I lost people who I played baseball with, literally grew up with, and they basically turned their back on me because they seen what I was doing as demonic or satanic, or working with the devil and things like that. So it was just a period where I stood in my truth. I stood in my authenticity. I looked into the world as an inversion of how the world is actually supposed to be. And I looked at myself as being a disruptor to a society that has grown so accustomed to what we consider a societal norm, what we consider how you're supposed to live, what you're supposed to think, what you're supposed to believe. So I really pride myself on being somebody who goes the opposite direction and walks this path that doesn't really follow a hive mentality, or doesn't follow the sheep going into a path where they're really just leading into self-destruction and self-imposed fears. So I was able to separate myself and understand, like, hey, like, their perception of me is just a reflection of their own internal wounds, their own trauma, their own perpetuated fears, their own suffering, because these people are unaware, they're unconscious that they're creating a hell on earth. And they think of that there's a physical existence of a hell, or there's a physical existence of a heaven, not realizing that it's all energy, it's all frequency. So I learned to not take things personal, but I also learned to set my boundaries, set stern boundaries. And I tell people, like, hey, if you have people who are cyberbullying you, don't always take the road that, the high road. Sometimes you have to remind people, like, hey, this is who I am. I'm not going to allow you to disrespect me. I'm going to assert myself in a manner where I'm respectful to you, but I'm not going to forget where I came from. I'm not going to forget that I grew up in very traumatic scenery. I grew up in the ghetto. I grew up in the hood. So this is always a part that's going to stick with me. This mentality from the streets of where I grew up from, and the violence that I seen, that I really had to learn to not allow the environment to make me part of my environment, but become better from my environment. So it's a mentality where it's just, I learned to not take things personal, but also don't take shit from people. You have to assert your voice. And often it's just the dominance of your energy. The divine masculine energy will naturally cause people to become a bit fearful of your assertion. And you're not trying to instill fear in them, but they take it as an attack on them when you're just asserting yourself, where I'm not going to allow you to belittle me. I'm not going to allow you to gaslight me, because just that thought, that belief is creating an energetic barrier and protecting you from allowing this person to have some type of influence on your being, on your energy, and influence you to feel less about yourself or feel less worthy about yourself. So everything just becomes an energy that's created through your thoughts, and the way that you deviate or the way that you alleviate certain thoughts creates an energetic barrier and will continue to protect you.
That's great, man. Yeah, I've been, when I went through my sort of awakening process, I think mine was kind of slow and gradual over time. But I had a moment at work one day where I had this voice in my head that told me I needed to be helping people, and it wasn't my voice in my head. And then from that, I was just kind of searching and searching, like, what am I supposed to be doing? And I was just desperately searching, trying to find my purpose in life, because I was working as an executive chef at a restaurant, and I was a chef for 26 years, and I hated my job and I hated my life. And then, I used to drink a lot, and I quit drinking many years ago. And I used to smoke a lot of pot. When I quit smoking pot, one of my main goals for doing that was to follow my intuition, because when I wasn't stoned all the time, then I could really feel my inner guidance system. So that's what kind of, led me on this path. And then I found this sort of spiritual mentor that kind of helped me along. And, yeah, I'm not sure where I was going with that, but, um, like the symptoms of awakening, because when I was first going through all this stuff, I felt so lost. Like I didn't know what was going on. Like all these truths were coming to me. When I realized everything in the world, we were lied to about everything, and and I was just going crazy, and I could just feel all these truths going on, and it was really kind of a tough time for me. So having that sort of spiritual mentor, and I used to call her every week, and she would help me through with what was going on in my life. And and she kind of helped me communicate with my spirit guides, and she kind of told me, this is your purpose, this is why you're here to help people. And I had to really work on getting rid of my own illusions and fears and doubt. And that was one of my biggest fears, is what other people think about me. And she told me exactly recently something you just said: you have to not give a fuck what other people think, and you have to stand in your truth and do your own thing. And no one, and she said this to me recently, no one can make you feel a certain way. You have control over the way you feel, and you have control. If someone's said something that makes you feel a certain way, you have to release that from your body and release that energy from your body. um yeah, but yeah, man. But yeah, I was definitely lost for a long time, and I feel like I'm definitely on track now. I've made a lot of changes in the past couple of years. Um, yeah, one thing with regards to angel numbers, I remember, when I first met this lady, and she kind of told me all this stuff about, my life's purpose, and kind of laid it all out for me. And she said, after you leave here today, you have two choices. You can believe what I said, or you can say everything was bullshit. But she said, if you believe what I said, your life is going to totally change. And that was the time, I started seeing all these synchronicities and coincidences and angel numbers everywhere. And I started, freaking out, like, oh, look at this. And I'm, taking pictures of them and telling my wife, and I'm driving my wife crazy. Um, but in regards to angel numbers, you were talking about that the other day on your story about the meaning of angel numbers, because a lot of people will look online and say, what does this number mean? Or this means this and this means that. And So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that sort of thing with the angel numbers and, what they mean to you.
Yeah, definitely. Angel numbers, instinctively, humans are going to go to Google, they're going to search it, and they're going to get these meanings, and it's going to help them. Don't get me wrong, it's going to help you to a degree, but it's definitely going to limit your belief in how you're supposed to articulate the whole meaning behind angel numbers. So if you are seeing angel numbers, doesn't necessarily mean you have to be awake to see angel numbers, but it's just a reminder that you're on the right path, that you're connecting to a higher state of consciousness. You're connecting to the vibration and the alignment of source, and also the rhythm of Earth, because Earth is a conscious being. Mother Nature is conscious, and we connect through energy or the solar flares. So if there's ever like an influx in solar flares, we notice that typically we will start to see more angel numbers that day. So for me, I really moved away from just the 111, 1111, new beginnings, manifestations, 222 alignment. And I really started to, because I literally understand the meaning of all of those basic meanings, and they hold true to them. But I began challenging myself to take it a step further. I was like, okay, well, let me connect to my subconscious mind. What was my thought prior to seeing this number? For example, you can be driving down the road, somebody cuts you off, and in front of the car, the plate in front of you, it's 666, which it's seen as like this number that the church or religion considers the mark of the beast. Well, in spirituality, I see that number and I was like gonna say something, or I was triggered and I was gonna lash out at this person who cut me off. Instead, I saw the number and it's like reminding you to come back to self, realign. So these are the reminders that you get, and you learn to really use these numbers in a way where it connects to your personal guides, loved ones. Like for me, I've learned that if I see 223, it's a number that I've learned to connect to my mother. So my mother is with me. My mother is trying to relay a message to me. So you start to develop your own understanding, your own confirmations with these numbers. Like a number 911, for me, that's a number that's like reminding me the urgency that I need to pay attention to something, or I need to redirect my thoughts to something very important. So it's really about how are you going to manipulate the numbers, because angel numbers are connected to manifestation. They're connected to our subconscious mind. They're also connected to our angels. So there's a multitude, and there's layers to angel numbers. So it's all about you. How do you choose to use it? And how is it best going to help you elevate your consciousness? I can tell people like this is the basic meaning, but it's going to limit them, and they have to be able to take it upon themselves to really push that envelope of challenging themselves to have some type of relationship that they develop with numbers or numerology.
Oh, that's great. And for me lately too, I never really looked up the meaning. I did a little bit, but I mostly just took it as like, okay, confirmation that I'm on the right path. And then lately what I've been doing is, when I see them, I try to remember, okay, what was I just thinking about there? And sometimes that's hard,
Hmm.
like, what was I just thinking about? What was I just doing? So that's what I'm kind of doing right now, is trying to, and like you said,
Yeah.
it's going to be different for everyone. And,
You evolve on your own, your own terms, and like you'll move from just the regular synchronicities. Like say I see 3333, I see it in a four or quadruple. Well, that's telling me that there's an amplified effect to that number, that there's this aptitude, and there's a more intriguing opportunity for me that's just amplified. So if I take that chance, or I take that risk for something that's going to present itself through a manifestation, this number is telling me that I'm exactly where I need to be. There's certain numbers where it's going to have the same meaning for everybody, like the number 144, or you see it sometimes, you'll see it 441, you see it reversed, or you'll see like a palindrome, which a palindrome is like you see 141 1. It's like the same reverse as it is backwards. And these numbers are typically going to be activation numbers. Like if you're seeing 144, this is telling you that you're activating further, your DNA is activating. So that's going to be the same to a lot of us, like the number that's connected to choosing yourself, the DNA sequence, the upgrade of your DNA moving into a higher state of consciousness, which then each time we have some type of celestial event or a solar event, or we're getting pounded by solar flares from the Schumann resonance, while your DNA is continuously activating, or it's purging, or it's detoxing. So like old programs and old subconscious programming, limited beliefs. These are essentially programs that you are purging out the body, which allow you to remove all this decluttering residual energy that no longer is needed. So every time now you absorb light, it allows you to encode different type of coding that's going to integrate into our DNA, or to the liquid crystalline that we have that's activating. And the liquid crystalline is a substance that is in your brain and throughout our body that acts as a reflector. So every time you're in the light, it's a reflector that is allowing your body to activate further. So there's definitely numbers that are more special than others. Like another one to me that's really special to me is 999, because this is a number where it's completion, fulfillment, ending, enlightenment. So when I see 9, which was very evasive, this was the most evasive number on my journey, was the nines. So when I see it, it was a time where I was closing out karmic cycles. I was really taking control of my desires as a man. I was taking control of the lust, the temptation. I stopped masturbating. I stopped watching pornography. So these were these soul lessons that I was finally able to learn and move away from and fully take control of my life force. And I was able to move away from just attracting the same women, or trying to save everybody, my codependent habits. I was able to finally break free of those. So these were all soul lessons that we have through our soul contract terms, which your soul contract terms is a plethora and a list of agreements that you have with your spirit team. You come down to earth, you incarnate, and then you're stamped with what is called the seal of forgetfulness. So at the moment you're conceived and you come out the womb of your mother, you forget everything you signed up for. And it's about remembering who we are. And when we elevate and we remember who we are through the consciousness elevation, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I remember that this is a soul lesson. I remember that I'm dealing with some type of karmic relationship because this is a past life karmic lesson that I failed in another life that I'm meant to live out in the current present moment, so I could change the timeline. I could change where I'm moving or where I'm trying to go.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think porno is a big one. When I quit watching porn, it was like over a year ago, and one day I just decided, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. And then through the I'm a self-realization fellowship student through the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, and then recently one of the lessons I learned about the energy, when you're doing that, the energy you're wasting. And I think he said one I don't know what you call it, but every time you ejaculate, that's worth the energy of like 4 pints of blood or something like that. So after I learned that, I'm like, man, I'm not wasting my energy on that shit anymore. And and if you do that, and for anyone out there that is watching porn and doing that, wasting your energy, just kind of try to use your awareness and see how do you feel after you do that, and you notice your energy is just gone. You just threw it away. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the big thing that keeps me. And it's weird because I've given up all these things, and sometimes I still get little temptations in my mind sometimes too. Like they're not as bad anymore, but just little ones. And when things come up in your life and you feel uncomfortable, you get like, I get these little tempts in my head to tell me like, oh, you should go watch porn, or you should go do this, or go smoke a joint, or have a drink, or whatever. But I think I'm finally at the point where, and it's been a long journey to get here, that I'm finally at the point where I'm above that stuff. Like I'm in control of what I'm doing, and this voice in my head is not in control anymore. It's going to have me do that stuff. So
Yeah.
um, another thing I wanted to talk about was a lot of people online talk about this dark night of the soul thing. That seems to be like a popular topic, and everyone's kind of giving advice and stuff to do with that. I just wanted to get kind of your take on like, what is the dark night of the soul?
So your dark night of the soul, and this is where I'm on-traditional, because I'm not a reader. I don't read a lot of books. I don't delve myself into a lot of spiritual knowledge. It's something that comes naturally. It's innate to our existence. And this is something that everybody has the ability to tap into, is this super hyper aware consciousness where you don't need to read a ton of books. Is it cool to read? By all means, it's fine to read books and
Mm.
get the knowledge you can from books. But true enlightenment is about knowing who you are, knowing the true self. And your dark night of the soul is just this period in your life where you're at all time low, where it just a breaking point in your life where everything, it's like Murphy's Law, whatever can go wrong does go wrong. And you are in this victimized state of living. And it brings you to this point of your dark night of the soul, whether it was a heartbreak, it was a divorce, it was a near death experience, overdose, it was something traumatic that puts you into this lower state of living where you're basically in the abyss, you're in the cellars, you're in the depths of hell, sitting with your internal demons who have been feasting at you your whole life. And finally, you muster the courage, you find the courage to move yourself out of this victimized state of living. And you finally understand, I could have been a victim. You know, you suffer, you being molested or you're raped, or there's certain circumstances in our life that we deal with where our innocence was stripped. And those who awaken will have the harshest karmic lessons. They have the harshest life. They come in born into karmic families, or they come born into families that are incestual. There's just a very dark energy that carries around, and this black cloud that hovers around these families, because you are meant to be the one who changes the course of that lineage and that bloodline. You're the one who is meant to awaken, to change the course and bring that destiny where you discover, like, I'm the one who it ends with. And this is really a period where you rise and you take that challenge, and you understand, like, I've been allowing myself to live in a lower state of being where vibrations just consume me, where vibrations of lust, vibrations of codependency, vibrations of attracting narcissistic partners, a vibration that was really not allowing me to succeed, but yet my heart remained pure. I still had a pure soul. My intentions were always intact. I never, like an empath, will never purposely hurt people. Do we hurt people in our path? Of course we do. We break many hearts because of the own trauma that we live with, or the lack of love that we were shown as children, or the inner child who was wounded because they were rejected by their parents, or they were abandoned by their parents. So it comes full circle, and it finally puts you into this place of suffering where you're just tired of the suffering. You're tired of living with the anxiety, the depression. You're tired of crying. You're tired of the sleepless nights. That's your dark night of the soul, where it just can't get any worse. And you finally are able to embrace that darkness and change the course of that darkness, make peace with that darkness, make peace with the internal demons that have been, festering on your being and your existence. So it's just a moment where your eyes finally open, and you're able to bring all this experience through your transgressions, the trials, the tribulations, and you're able to triumph and rise above, and you step into that occasion of becoming your own hero, becoming your own savior.
That's awesome, man. I love the way that you describe that. I've never heard it described that way before, but I definitely experienced that. One day I just said I had enough. I'm not living like this anymore. And,
Mhm.
that's crazy. And another question I wanted to ask you about was spiritual attacks. You were talking the other day about, I think, on your story about spiritual attacks, and I remember, like, at the beginning of my journey, I thought I was experiencing spiritual attacks, but then, was it a spiritual attack, or was it my own sort of darkness coming out, or what, was it myself, or what, was it an entity attacking me, or was it something coming from myself? So I heard you talking about that the other day. So I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
Definitely. Spiritual attacks, are they real? Yes, they are, because basically a spiritual attack is just a psychic attack that's being directed towards somebody that's really living in their truth and their authenticity, and you're triggering other people within your magnetic field, and they're jealous of you, they're envious of you, they don't want to see you succeed, or they're wondering, why is this person so happy? Why is this person so vibrant? Why is this person's their aura just different, and they're very envious of it without knowing anything about you. So essentially they're manifesting unconsciously a psychic attack on another person. They're not, a lot of times they're not even conscious that they're doing it. But it's, everything is psychic, everything is energy. So basically, they're trying to get into your psyche to make you think, I feel somebody who doesn't align with me, or somebody is in a disagreement with my vibration. And if you consent to it and you accept that energy, and you're like, oh, I feel like I'm depleted, I feel a certain way, I feel like somebody's doing something to me, I feel like I'm under spiritual attack, them, you just consented to that energy. So you allowed that spiritual attack to influence your state of being, to influence your reality. So psychic attacks are constant. They're going to come, they're going to be plentiful, but it's all about understanding that you're in a higher frequency, you're in a higher density. And a person who is existing in a lower state holds no power over your reality unless you allow them to hold power over you. And a lot of times, too, with spiritual awakenings, like you have this suppressed and repressed trauma that is now exiting out the body, and it's a very unfamiliar feeling. So you often can feel the energy that's swirling around you, which is a kundalini energy, and it feels very unpleasant because the only way that humans change is if we're very uncomfortable. So often our senses become overwhelmed and they're overstimulated. The stimuli is overstimulated, which leads into hypersensory overload, which is like a hard drive. Basically, envision your body as a hard drive that's been overstimulated with data and programs. So now it's just frying, it's crashing because you can't process all the trauma, all the energy that's exiting out the body. So people misconstrue that as an attack. They misconstrue that as somebody attacking them because it literally feels like something is weighing you down, and your irrational thinking is cloudy, your logic is cloudy, because you are basically awakening to a truth that you didn't know existed. So everything just feels overwhelming and it's consuming you, and all these energies and these new feelings of emotions are coming out at the same time. So it's a lot that you have to deal with. And that overwhelms a lot of people. And they right away revert to feeling like they're under spiritual attack, not realizing that this is their own shadow. This is their own internal demons manifesting into the physical. It's their own presence that they've allowed to live with. And they've basically allowed a lower internal energy or a demonic energy to find a very safe place in their body. While when we awaken, it triggers those demons in our body and it has to go somewhere. So it's exiting, it's coming out, you're purifying yourself, you're exercising your own personal demons. It's not like what we see on TV where you have a priest with a crucifix and holy water. It's really you becoming your own exorcist to exercise your own internal demons.
That makes sense. Yeah, I remember, when I was going through my stuff and I thought I was getting, spiritual attacks. That totally makes sense. It was, my own stuff coming up. I even went to,
Hmm.
as far as, getting these crystals, and someone told me to put these crystals. So I put these crystals, I forget which ones they were, all around my house and create like a little, barrier and stuff like that. But I was, just thinking the other day, I haven't had any sort of instances in a long time. Every once in a while I'll sort of feel something or see something out of the corner of my eye or feel some sort of energy. But the thing I do is, like, I used to get in fear at those times, and I would get in super fear, so then my vibration would go down, and then I kind of learned that, even if something is trying to attack me, it's just trying to lower my vibration. So I just kind of laugh at it now and just say, like, in my head, like, nice try, you're not going to do that to me. And then I just kind of stand in my truth and just kind of emanate some love, and I don't let it bother me. But a year ago I was basically freaking out with this shit, and it was I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and it's those little subtle shifts in your thoughts and your consciousness that really allow you to take control of that energy and those thoughts, of that attack that's being casted your way from a hater or a naysayer, somebody that just is a friend of me or something. And the thing is like the people who are closest to you are going to be the ones who want you to fail. They're going to be the ones who are casting the spiritual attacks towards you through the manifestations of wanting you to fail. And it becomes something that you also have to practice in your own personal practice of being a spiritual coach, a mentor, because you have to walk away from a lot of people who are existing in that lower state of consciousness where they may understand the spiritual knowledge, they may understand what's happening with the world and the fact that we're going through a very transcendental time of humanity where millions of people are awakening to who they are, why they're here, and trying to move humanity into a higher state of being. But there's still people who they can't rid themselves of relying on tarot cards every single day. They can't move away from feeling like they need to do Reiki every day. So they become so dependent on these modalities, which has nothing to do with spirituality. And they allow the influence of these cards that say, oh, a family member is doing this to you, or a family member said this about you. and they accept that. So they allow that energy now to latch onto them, whether it's an entity or it's some type of presence that has influence over the reality. They just consent it because they don't have control of their own mentality. They don't have control of their psyche. And there's a lot of teachers, there's a lot of people who have certified Reiki healer, certified Akashic reader, all these fine print on their bios and their Instagram handles and whatnot. And you soon discover, after talking to a lot of people and having personal interactions with people, is there's a lot of people who are not qualified to be working with energy. So you as an individual, as you embark and you begin to venture out into the unknown and connect and network, you also have to set boundaries within people of the spiritual community, because there's a lot of people wearing false masks. There's a lot of spiritual narcissists. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people who have an alter ego that's trying to make a safe place to appear to be holy and spiritual, but really they're consuming on the energy of people who are in a very vulnerable state. For example, somebody who just awakens, they're very vulnerable to be in the guidance or the mentorship of somebody who isn't qualified to be doing that work, that type of work. And by telling that people, I need to do a cleanse on you, I need to take these entities off of you. If you don't allow me to do this, then it's going to affect you in a way where you can't fully heal, completely disempowering that individual. The moment that individual says, yes, do this for me, you just lost your power.
Yeah, unfortunately, that happened to me. It was about a year ago when I was going through my stuff and all these synchronicities were happening. And someone messaged me on Instagram and said, oh, they got, whatever they say. But that's never happened to me before. So I thought, oh, this is another sign. This person can, wants to help me. And so I went along with it, and I got ripped off big time. And, and it was two people that were working together. So, one person, they needed money to go get these things to, make something to get this entity off of me, or it was this family curse that I had, and it was all this intricate thing, and I didn't even tell my wife about it until I needed to borrow money from her because I already emptied my bank account. But yeah, I learned that one. I learned that one the hard way. And then at the end of it, when I realized it was a scam and they had taken me, I sent them the nicest message that I could send them. I was mad, but I was mad at myself, and I just said, if you want to do the right thing and give me my money back, that would be great. And I just said, I hope you don't do this to any more people. And I was as nice as I could be with it. But yeah, I definitely learned that the hard way, and I was definitely very vulnerable, and I was just sort of open and looking for anything. So they definitely got me at the right time. That's for sure.
Ex- Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is people who are spiritual, if you choose to do one-on-one work and you choose to do work with energy, you have to really have transparency. You have to have integrity. And if I have people come to me and they offer me a reading or they offer me some type of spiritual guidance, I really I'm really closed off, and I'm really understanding the discernment that's needed right now to really point people in the right direction. And the first thing I look for, if I'm coaching somebody, the first thing I'm going to tell that student or I'm going to tell that person is, I'm not going to do nothing for you that you cannot do for yourself. You're 99% responsible for your ascension, your success, your elevation. I'm 1% responsible for trying to get you into the right direction. Because what happens, and I don't tell people this, but this was something that I've that I was able to channel from my own higher self and my own guides and whatnot. But you become a conduit, you become an activator. Once you hone and you master a 5D frequency and you integrate and you have upgraded personally, when people come into your path, you help them also activate further. Just a subtle conversation with somebody, just insight of you pointing them into the right direction, or they may have felt lost on the journey and they cross paths with you. You may only have one interaction with this individual, and it just helps them put it all together and it clicks with them finally. You have help that person activate their DNA further. You have helped that person activate something that was dormant within them, because you become just these energy vectors and these transmitters for higher consciousness and higher frequency. And this is essentially what we're experiencing right now, is people who awaken or people who have been on the journey longer are connecting to people who may be just starting their journey. So they cross paths with you and you help them activate further. And eventually you have to get very comfortable with short interactions. People come and go. You lose a lot of people. There's very few people who are going to be here throughout your journey, and it's something that you really have to embrace because you want. One thing for me personally that I always remind myself is when I detach from somebody after I've done my spiritual work with them, the best thing that we can do for people that we love and we care about is set them free and allow them to journey on their own. And this happens so common with people in relationships or marriages romantically is one person goes through an awakening, the other person is still stuck in a 3D consciousness. And that person is now forced with the decision. Do I want to stay where this person is just projecting their insecurities, these fears onto me? Or do I want to release this person in love and allow them to really discover who they are and why they're here?
And I think that's the biggest test is, being able to know that, the everyone needs to kind of find their own way, and you can't do it for someone. If you have a friend and, you really want to help them, but you can't if they don't want help. So like, that's been a big test for me just to what I'm trying to say is just accept people for who they are and love them for who
Mhm.
they are. And I had a mentor that used to say that, used to tell us that, a good practice is just trying to see the divine in everybody, whether they're awake or not. So that's something that I practice a lot too, even if, just trying to have compassion for everyone at whatever stage they're at on their path.
Exactly. I mean, you can only meet people to where they are on their own consciousness level, and this is where I've really learned to discern who's ready to be helped is just the questions they ask. Um, the questions they ask will tell a lot about the individual, and also they take accountability. They take responsibility for their actions, their own mess ups, and their own clutter that they put themselves in. But there's a readiness and there's a willingness to change. So these people will ask the questions and then you respond because a person who isn't ready, you're going to trigger them very badly. You're going to trigger them to the point where they lash out on you, or they may even block you, or sometimes they tell you, oh, well, you're a false prophet, you're this, you're that, and they attack you because you just triggered something within them that they need to heal. While as healers, as people who are ascendant and who are currently ascending, your job is to trigger people, and you're going to do more triggering. So you have to find this balance between, do I give this person tough love, do I give this person a gentle, nurturing, feminine love? So you start to really master how I'm supposed to handle certain individuals. Do I need to be very firm and stern with them? Do I need to tell them, hey, like snap out of your shit, like you're trauma dumping on me. You're putting yourself in my energetic field to where I cannot do nothing for you because you don't want to help yourself. So you have to create boundaries really with people even who are in the spiritual community, even more so than people who are not in the spiritual community, because these are the people who are coming to you for advice and are lost and they're looking for answers.
That's great. And, a lot of people think spirituality is all, love and light and, all this shit. But, like you said, you do need to trigger people sometime, and I love that you said that, and that's a great perspective. And you do need to trigger people sometimes to awaken them, and you can be spiritual and you can get angry. It doesn't have to be love and light all the time. The way I look at it is like, as long as you're in your truth, it doesn't matter.
Right, right. And this starts to really get into this place where you're picking and choosing what's spiritual and what's not spiritual. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've had comment on pages because I have a baseball cap on or because I'm wearing an Anaheim Angels hat. I'm
Yeah.
wearing red. And like, why do you wear red so much? Don't you know that red drops your vibration? And just these stupid comments, or the fact that I watch baseball, I watch sports, which I understand it's all scripted, it's all a play that we're in, but at the same time the true sign of somebody who has finally figured out spiritually is the fact that they can enjoy a three-dimensional realm. They can
Hmm.
enjoy going to a baseball game, they can enjoy going to a movie, they can enjoy going to a concert and not take things so personal to the point where they're judging everything that other people are doing. Because I also remember that baseball was something that was a safe haven to me. It was something that kept me out of trouble. It kept me away from being home because I hated going home, because when I was at home it was domestic violence, it was drug abuse, it was mom and dad giving each other black eyes and whatnot. So baseball was part of my growth and my evolution. And when I went through my awakening, I completely disconnected to the point where I couldn't even watch sports. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't watch movies. I couldn't listen to certain songs anymore. I just had this disconnection with everything. Well, as you begin to balance everything out and you harmonize the frequencies that we're trying to really integrate into our celestial body, everything finally starts to settle down where it kind of dissipates. You don't feel like, like you were having the conversation with me earlier where you said you felt like it was a lot heavier when you first awakened and then it kind of slows down. And often when this happens, people start to question, am I still awakened? Am I still
Mhm.
connected? Am my angels? Am I still connected to source? Am I still connected to higher consciousness? And it starts making people question their reality. Well, when you get to that place, but yet there's a state of peace, there's a state of tranquility, this is where you want to get. This is where you want to be. And this is where I am. I find the most joy where I can enjoy the three-dimensional realm because this is where we live. But at times, you have to be interdimensional, which means interdimensional just simply means that you can go into the fifth dimension, sixth dimension, bring back that information or bring back that frequency, anchor it back down into the third dimensional realm and do something positive with it. Do something alchemizing with it. Do something where you are bringing change toward humanity with whatever you are channeling from a higher dimension.
Wow, that's cool, man. And I just wanted to touch on something you said before about manifesting. When people are manifesting spiritual attack, so people can be manifesting a spiritual attack even when they're not aware of it, just through their thoughts, right? People are manifesting, whether you're aware of it or not, you're always manifesting. Is that correct?
Exactly. I mean, once you fully can immerse yourself in the belief that everything is energetic, our cell phones, this podcast, clothing, everything holds an energy toward it. And whether you're consciously manifesting or you're purposely manifesting, everything is essentially manifestation. Prayer is manifestation. And a lot of people just lose sight of what manifestation is because there's a lot of quick fix manifestation techniques that are so readily available on social media. If you want to manifest $1 million, do this affirmation or these put these codes in, these agesta codes, which I completely despise, and I completely get irked to this day when I see people who use agesta codes, which are believed to be like these ancient codes that were last used by the Atlanteans, where it's like a biohack. It's a hack into the matrix where if you want to lose 50 pounds, put in this code. If you want to stop smoking, put in this code. If you want to manifest wealth, put in this code. So my intuition and my red flags go off very quickly when people start to insinuate that there's shortcuts with spirituality. If it's a shortcut and there is a way to where you can just magically have all these things appear into your life, to me, I don't want it because to me, that's the equivalent of selling my soul. That's the equivalent of me being demeaning to my own spirit and my own cause of why I'm here, because I'm here to experience all the transgressions, all the failures that lead me into manifesting a healthier lifestyle, more abundance, more prosperity, more money, more opportunities. Because there's also a community of people who say, if you're spiritual, you can't have a nice car. If you're spiritual, you can't have a nice house, you can't have money. But you really start to understand that we are born to be wealthy. We are born inherently to not suffer, to not be in poverty. It's your birthright. And
Exactly.
it's just about understanding how to manipulate these energies and then align yourself to the energy and the resonance of what you're trying to manifest at. So if I want to manifest more money, then I'm going to manifest better opportunities through better job opportunities. Like right now, what I want to do is I want to manifest something so I'm not so reliant and dependent on a 9 to 5 job or a corporate
Mhm.
job. And that's slowly happening because now, through the very same devices that were dividing us, that were causing us to hate one another, such as social media, now it's bringing everybody together because we are rewiring the subconscious and we are rewiring the conscious state of everything that was once used against us. So now you have these outlets where you can make money creating reels. I can get paid for getting reels out into the free public and just speaking my truth and my authenticity. I can monetize my products if I want to. So everything is presenting itself as an opportunity. You can create a podcast and get paid for doing it if you have enough subscriptions. So it's allowing us to be sovereign, to be more free, to move away from these three-dimensional constructs or these matrix constructs that are keeping people in this scarcity mindset and believing that they are meant to be poor and that they can't be successful and be wealthy.
Yeah, totally. That used to be me. I used to believe that, but now, I'm manifesting, starting my own business. I'm launching a 12-week group program for men, which I'm currently building. I'm doing a business mentorship right now, working with coaches and building all that, and seeing my vision actually coming to reality is pretty amazing. The one thing I've realized about manifesting recently is that it takes a long time. It's not like, oh, I'm going to manifest this and it's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to take a couple of years. It's going to take some time. So that's what I keep telling myself, because I want to be there right now. I want to quit my job. I want to be self-employed. I want to do all this stuff, but it's going to take time, and things move slowly. So we just got to be patient. And
Definitely.
another thing I wanted to say, I heard this the other day. I was listening to Nick Zai's podcast, and his guest said something that I just remembered when you were talking there, that the long path is the shortcut. And I thought that was really funny. That, taking the long path is the actual shortcut, whereas, taking the shortcuts is going to be the longer path.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've always lived by this quote, never discourage a person making progress, no matter how slow they're moving. Because essentially, we're divine, we're eternal, and everybody's on their own journey, everybody's on their own pace. So when I see you, I don't know your age, your chronological age, you look like you're 30 in your 30s, and I don't see a 30-some-year-old sitting across me. I look at the soul level. I look at this person is probably on his 1000th incarnation. um, so I really start to look at souls, that maybe there's somebody that's 30 years old, but really this is their first incarnation. So this person's going to take longer, this person's
Mm.
going to take patience, and it just allows you to not see everything so black and white, to focus more on the metaphysical world and focus on things that typical most people wouldn't even understand or comprehend. But for myself, I look at the age on a soul level. I look at people's their advancements. I met 18-year-olds, I met 20-year-olds who are very wise, very mature, and then I've met 90-year-olds who are still battling depression and anxiety because it's their first incarnation. A lot of people don't understand, or nor they believe in reincarnation. I was on the fence about reincarnation until I experienced some past life regression when I went through my awakening, and then it completely shifted my belief. And I was like, 100%, I believe in reincarnation. I believe that I'm from a different planet. I believe I'm from a different constellation, that I've lived multiple lives on different planets. And this is going to allow people to perceive me as completely crazy and delusional. But my truth is my truth. My truth is what is going to set me free. And how can I explain what I dreamt about, or what I experienced in the astral realm, what I experienced in the Akashic field? A lot of people aren't going to understand that, but there are souls here, and I will take this to my grave until I die. There are souls here that are from other planets who agreed to come here to help advance the consciousness of humanity. It was very selfless, it was very carefree, because you're coming from a planet and you're coming from dimensions that are already existing in the higher frequency, higher consciousness. You're coming down to Earth, which is a very heavy density. It's a planet that some could even conceive and believe is what a prison planet would, you know, be. But you're still willing to come to this prison planet and segregate yourself on this planet for the betterment of humanity, for the betterment to advance Earth and all of its inhabitants on Earth into a higher state of consciousness.
Yeah, what a mission, eh? That's that's a pretty gangster mission to come and
Right.
help.
Some may call it a suicide mission, and some may have been in their UFO or their flying saucer and just continue to take the tour and fly by and observe wish us well. Maybe they can throw us a bone here and there, give us something, you know, some type of positive feedback. And everybody's waiting on the alien invasion. Everybody's waiting on
Yeah.
the Palladians to come rescue us. And I'm like, man, I tune it out. Like if they come, they come. I'm like, I kind of have fun with that stuff, and I have fun with the people who say they channel these galactic federations and things like that. Do I believe in them? Yeah, but at the same time, do I believe that they're going to come save us? I don't believe that. I believe we got to save ourselves. We got to first take it upon ourselves to heal ourselves, and then as you heal yourself, then you can be a greater assistance to humanity. Because if you don't understand yourself, you don't understand your own energy, you're going to be selfless. And like many of us who are empathic, hypersensitive person, we've always grown up being the caregiver and wanting to help other people, but we take on their energy and we don't know how to transmute it. We don't know how to release it. We walk around with it, we carry it. All of a sudden, that person is happy, that person is vibrant, that person's life turned around, but ours is still in this state of suffering, this state of depression, because we've always been so used to being the people pleasers, the caregivers. A lot of us who are empaths, we take more pleasure in seeing people succeed. We never properly learned how to love ourselves. We never understood what love truly was. To us, love was an emotion. Love was, what can I do for you, and how can I make you feel better about yourself or make you feel comfortable with your pain and suffering? Because empaths, we have a very high pain tolerance and a threshold that will break the average soul. And that's often a gift and a curse. And it's often something that we have to learn to move away from. We have to learn to take care of ourselves. We have to learn to practice our own self love. And finally, when you understand what love truly is, which love is a state of being, it's how do I put myself in the state of being of which love is? How do I put the frequency into a place that allows me to attract an overall better living circumstance and living experience, a living environment that allows me to constantly practice what love is.
That's beautiful, man. That was a big one for me when I learned that, I was taking on other people's energy and feeling other people's feelings, and then learning how to protect my energy. I got 3 kids at home, and I remember in the morning before, getting ready in the morning, I used to say to my wife, like, I'm having like anxiety attacks and panic attacks, and I don't even know why, but because there's so much energy in my house, and I was just taking it all in. And then, and
Hmm.
at work and around other crowds of people. But that was a big one for me, learning that it's like, hey, that's not, what is this feeling I'm feeling? Is it my feeling? No, this isn't my feeling. Like, where is this coming from? But that was a huge one for me, brother.
Yeah, I was the same way. I love my solitude. I hated social media. I never had social media until my awakening 3 years ago. It's the first ever social media platform I ever created. I loved being alone. I had very few friends, even before I was awakened. I just happened to lose everybody when I awakened, as far as majority of the friendships I had. But I understood that it was necessary. I understood that the split between three-dimensional frequencies and five-dimensional frequencies was a real thing occurring in my life. And yeah, we become sponges. And what can be perceived as a curse very early on in our life turns into the greatest gift. It turns into nothing but a blessing, because it allows us to navigate to where we can feel the energy of others. You don't even need to speak to me. You don't need to say a word to me. I already know your intentions before you act on it, because I can feel your energy. And these are all part of your abilities that continue to enhance, that every single one of us, every human being on this planet that has a soul, has the ability to tap into your clairsentience, your clairaudience, your clairvoyance, your clairofaction, your claircognizance. All these clair abilities are going to continually enhance as we continue to upgrade as a person, as an individual, and collectively.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to think that was a weakness of mine, that I was like too sensitive, or, you know, with my feelings, or I was too sensitive with other people. Because I remember when I was a head chef working in a restaurant, my staff would come into work and I could look at them, and with 1 second I could tell if there was something wrong with them, you know, if they were having a bad day. And I figured my downside was that I was always too worried about other people's feelings, because as a head chef, you're not supposed to care about, your staff's feelings. But I always found myself trying to, help everybody and bring everybody up. And, I used to think that was the downside for me. But then I later learned that that's, kind of one of my superpowers, that I'm able to notice that stuff. Yeah. So that's pretty interesting for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you don't stop being the person you were before you awaken, and the caregiver and the nurturer and the person that's always wanting to see people happy and full of smiles. You don't stop being that person. In fact, you even become that person even further. It's just
Mhm.
now you understand who to share it with. You understand who you can have the energy exchange with, who's going to reciprocate. It's not one-sided no more. It's like, I value my energy, I value my time, I value my peace. Who's going to do the same for me? I can still do this on a level that I've never done it before. It's just I'm more receptive and I'm more discerning about the takers and the givers in comparison to the people who I can feel the energy come into alignment. It's not making, and you trust that energy. You'll feel it right away. If somebody's not in alignment with you, you'll have your higher self in the back of your mind. Like the fact that you're talking about, you heard a voice that was talking to you, because we have that inner voice. That's our higher self. It's like there's two versions of us that are existing in this three-dimensional realm. Now there's millions of versions of us existing in the universe simultaneously. But the two selves that we have here on earth is our higher self, and we have our lower self, the self that wants to emotionally attach to the three-dimensional realm. And then we have our higher self who wants to disconnect and detach from the materialized world. And it's just about allowing my higher self to come in when my lower self wants to, run free and take reign over me. You have that constant reassurance from your higher self, that inner voice that's telling you, stay on the path, do the right thing, don't give in to your desires, don't go that way, don't talk to that person. That person is going to betray you. That person's going to backstab you. So we have all these gifts that we continue to really develop and master. And by the time 30, 40 years comes along, when we're no longer on this earth, those gifts are going to become very superhero like. I continually think that the advancements of the human race is going to continue to get to a place where telepathy is no longer something that's considered taboo. Elevation, levitation. There's going to be a lot of people who think that can levitate during meditation. Um, just overall going to be a beautiful time for humans to live, and I'm grateful that you and I get to be part of that contribution, the pioneers. Like, I consider us, you and I, those of us who are here on this spiritual awakening journey, I consider us the pioneers, the forerunners, the people who are really renewing the foundation, and the disruptors who are breaking the status quo, who are revolting against the typical way of living and the standard of what they say is the right way to live. And we're rewriting our own way of how we're supposed to live and how we're supposed to connect to a higher consciousness and what we understand to be God.
That's beautiful, brother. Awesome, man. Well, before we wrap things up today, I think our time is almost done here. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners? Is there anything we didn't cover today that you'd like to add, Anthony?
There's always a lot to add, man. If I could tell anybody one thing, and I don't know who's watching, I don't know the viewers. I can see that there's 10 people on here, and thank you guys all for being here. I can't see who it is. Um, But if one thing I will tell you is, brace yourself for 2025. It's going to be a magical year, and it's never too early, to look to 2025, which is the year of a nine, and nine is going to be a very magical year. I talked about it today earlier in a reel, where I feel like a lot of people are finally going to free themselves from karmic relationships, romantic relationships, family bloodlines that are karmics as well, because those of us who awaken are often born into families that aren't necessarily family. It's not your typical family. These are people who are here to keep you in captive and keep you enslaved. These are people who don't want to see you succeed. And for my own existence, I dealt with a lot of karmic families. I love my parents. I love my mom. I love my dad. God bless them, but they did not make things easy for me at all. But I'm grateful for it. Um, But brace yourself for 2025. I think it's going to be very, very magical, transcendental time where people finally break free of a lot of barriers that were confining them and keeping them segregated from really experiencing true peace and true love. And it's always has to do with relationships, which is why I talk about relationships so often, because humans are we're progressively always gravitating toward relationships, and the woman or the man, or people that we can love, people that we can grow old with. And now the year of the nine is going to allow the divine feminine energy to act in a way where men are more nurturing. So if you're a man, there's going to be a lot of men awakening. I don't think it's coincidence that you started your group with men, because a lot of
Perfect
men are
time.
disconnected
Yeah.
from their feminine energy. So the nine is connected to the Shakti energy, which is a Kundalini feminine energy, which is going to be available to all of us all through 2025. And it's going to just allow so many men to heal their feminine. So many women are going to heal their feminine, and a ton of men are going to awaken.
That's great. That gives me, thanks for that, Anthony. And that gives me hope with launching my men's program next year. So, that just reinforces that I'm on the right path with that as well. Awesome, man. And
Definitely.
where can people find you if they'd like to connect with you?
I'm always so late to the show. Like I just started Threads a couple days ago, and it was just like on the back of my mind, like just do it, just get on Threads. And it's just a cool place where I share some of my quotes or some thoughts that are running through my head at that moment. I'm on there. I'm on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok. Those are the only platforms I'm on. It's like pulling teeth with me trying to get me to start a new platform, man. It's like I really love to balance my spiritual and balance my physical life. I don't like to overconsume myself with my spirituality, and I don't like to overconsume myself with my three-dimensional life. So I'm a Libra. I'm all about the scales. I'm all about balance, and I'm all about just finding this place where I feel centered all the time, whether it's relationships or it's my spiritual friends that I've been so grateful to cross paths with, or it's my personal relationship with my girlfriend. I have to make sure I have time for my girlfriend. I have time to share time with her as well, and give her the love and affection she needs, and also my spiritual side. So, it's really about balance with me.
Yeah, that's true. And, for myself, I just started this social media journey. Like I started my account in February this year. And before that, I didn't even post online on my personal account because I was too worried what other people would think about me. And I was too scared to post anything online. So yeah, I'm pretty new to the game
Yeah,
myself
it's it's
too.
it's it's uh it's different when you're looking at to this day. Like I still hear myself speak, or I put a voice note out, and sometimes I re-listen to the message I'm saying. I'm like, this is so weird listening to myself speak or looking at myself on the screen. But there's a greater purpose, and that supersedes our own beliefs that we may have on ourselves, our own limitations. When I think about the cause, and I think about the importance of getting your voice out there, because your voice is a frequency. Your voice is going to heal many people. It's going to help many people understand, and you're going to notice, like, I people are going to find your videos. Oh, I saw this video at 11:11. This message was exactly what I was searching for. This is the situation that I'm in right now, and just so many people are going to connect to your videos. And this is a way that our guides, ancestors, and source are giving us, giving us that validation that often we seek. It's it's a validation that no matter what you say, it's nice to feel validated. It's nice to be seen and be heard. The validation that we need is just from ourself and our God, or whatever we understand to be God. And you get that plenty as you create more, as you start talking more. People are just going to be so blessed to be in your presence, and the wisdom and knowledge that people need right now, it's by the true people that have continued to do the work, are continuously doing the work, don't spiritual bypass. They understand both the light and dark. They understand the true harshness of the spiritual walk of life. They understand that it's okay to be angry at times, and how to use that anger as a positive influence. They understand it's okay to cry and be a man and show your tears and be compassionate toward yourself. So it's a beautiful walk of life, man.
That's awesome, brother. And thanks again so much for joining us today, Anthony. And for everyone listening, I'll include Anthony's information in the show notes and the links to his social media. And feel free to connect with me on Instagram at transformative_pathways. You can also find my link tree in the comments, where you'll find the links to all my social media, my email list, my private community, and options to book a consultation or apply for one of my one-on-one coaching programs. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love it if you could subscribe and follow us on your favorite listening platform. And if you'd like to support the show, we'd love it if you could take a moment to leave a review. It would mean a lot to us. It would also help the show reach more listeners. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we can't wait to connect with you all next time.
This has been the Transformative Pathways Podcast with your host, Jason Dobie. Tune in each week for more insights, inspiring stories, and transformative journeys. Until then, keep exploring the path to keep your best self. Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.